and welcome. My name is Beth McDonald Stone, and I'm an avid knitter and knitwear designer coming to you from Bermuda. So it's starting to feel a bit warmer here. I am not wearing my sweaters literally just this week as much as I was last week, but it can do this. It can come and go. Yeah, so it feels like spring here. I hope it's feeling like spring where you are if you're in the Northern Hemisphere, or maybe cooling off if you're in the Southern Hemisphere. Yeah, great time for knitting, I think. And I am getting excited about spring and summer knits. Not that I have anything to show you about that today, but definitely started to creep into my mind. And that really tells me that the seasons are changing. Other than that, I've been knitting like mad, coming up with lots of ideas, and some not so springy, but whatever. I think it's inspiration strikes. And I've done a little, not an official poll, but in a previous episode, I sort of asked, do you mind if, should I be publishing for the season, or do you really care? And it was really kind of interesting. Most people really just don't care. I think if you're a knitter, you're a knitter. And so when it's spring and summer, I don't think especially if you can sit in air conditioning, if you can control your environment. I mean, mohair in the heat and humidity is pretty brutal, but in air conditioning, I'll go mohair, full on heavy sweaters all year round. And yeah, and I guess that's not unusual for knitters, is it? Yeah. Anyways, that's a bit of a weird ramble to start with. But it is spring here, and in spring, the spring blooms do come out just like everywhere else. They're a little bit different here. Oh, and Luna says hi. Yeah, so this spring blooms, the one that's really noticeable right now is the Bermudiana. It's our national flower, and it's lovely. I'll put a picture right here. They're coming into bloom right now, and they're really pretty. They're usually, you see Bermudiana sort of speckled in longer grass and stuff like that, and they're a very delicate little blue flower, pretty little green stem. They kind of sort of clump, but not clump like other flowers. Other flowers that come out right now that really clump, that are really spectacular, are freesias. And if you walk around or drive around Bermuda right now, there's like lawns of freesias, which is really beautiful. Bermudiana are a little bit more spare, but they're really pretty. So I'll have hopefully put in a picture and you can see it, but this is my interpretation of a Bermudiana. So this is my Bermudiana sweater, and it's just a drop sleeve boxy sweater. And like I think I've said when we were talking about the different sweater constructions a couple weeks ago, right now I'm really into drop sleeve. I didn't love them for a long time, but now I'm really seeing the benefits. And I think also because I'm super drawn right now to very oversized knits, and I'm curious how long that lasts. I mean, super oversized are very comfy and cozy, but they're equally shapeless, and I like that. I really dig that right now. But whatever, trends come and go, and while I don't try to stay on trends, I just try to go with what I'm feeling. And so I try to design with what I'm looking for in my wardrobe, what I'm feeling, what colors I'm feeling, what shapes I'm feeling, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm definitely in an oversized, boxy, square, straight leaves mode right now. So that's really what this is. So this is fingering weight. I used my friend Priscilla, who I talk about all the time. Hi. She is great because when she travels, she's based in Europe, so she sees a lot of the European festivals that I haven't been able to get to, but I hope to once my son launches to university. But anyways, when she goes, she's wonderful and picks up some yarn. And so one event or one festival that she went to that I really would love to go to is the Fanu Festival, so the Danish yarn festival on an island called Fanu. And she picked up G-uld New Zealand, so yarn from G-uld. They dye it, but it's the base is from New Zealand. Lamb's wool and color indigo, and that's this one here, and it was just lovely. So that was sort of the base color for this. And then I used Rauma Finullgarn in 401 and 406, whichever, the white and a darker blue. Now the darker blue wasn't showing blue dark enough, so I added a Bien Aimee Mohair, and it adds nothing to the gauge. It was purely just to shift the colors to have a bit more sort of dominance, so that the color spectrum is greater, so that the flower motif shows up. So yeah, really fun, really easy. I started at the bottom, worked a very simple 1x1 hem, and then changed it into and went up from there. I will be actually honest, when I design, quite often I don't start with the hem. I'll start here, cast on, until I get exactly what I want lengthwise, and then I'll pick up stitches and add the hem. But I wrote the pattern the other way around. That said, if you are knitting bottom up and you're a bit nervous on anything, you can totally do that. And picking up stitches is, I find, super gratifying, especially horizontally and vertically. I don't know. I just find it really gratifying to just literally very slowly go between the little loop of each stitch and pick up a stitch in there. And it's really simple, satisfying, easy. But I feel like $1,000,000 and I finished it. So, you know, whatever works for you, right? So that's how I do for designs, or I have for the first few drop sleeve sweaters, until I found my magic numbers. And we talked about magic numbers last week too. So you should be all up to date on that. And if you're not, and if I'm mentioning different episodes, I've done a series, and today will be the final one on how I design a sweater, and it'll take you right from inspiration to pattern publishing. So today is the last bit. So in one episode, and I think it's an episode I wrote down, 33, I talk about the different constructions. And then in my last episode, 34, I talked about magic numbers. And those are the two episodes that I referenced there just in the initial conversation about Bermudiana. I have put them all in a playlist because I think it is interesting, and people do ask a lot of how do you design a sweater. So the playlist is in my YouTube homepage. I don't know, what do you call it? Yeah. So if you look at Beth McDonald Stone and you just click on the page that my icon starts on, then there'll be a playlist of all the, which will be 5 in total after this one, of how I design a sweater from inspiration to publication. And of course, you can take that to whatever stage you want. I mean, if you don't want to publish a sweater and stuff like that, I mean, that's just today's last little bit. But anyway, so it really should hopefully help everyone and answer questions. And I also think that it helps understand what you're looking for when you're working on someone else's pattern too. So it kind of fills in blanks you can see from different perspectives, like from the designer and from you, which would make sense from you, the fabricator. So anyways, okay, so that's, we'll talk about the last part 5 at the end, but that's kind of what I've been talking about here with sweater construction, bottom up, knowing your magic numbers. And with different construction styles, I mean, my magic numbers change, and my magic numbers change also with fashion. And like I said, right now I'm really into oversized. So the magic numbers are shifting. So with this, the pattern we written from the very bottom up, from the hem up, if you aren't comfortable with your magic numbers from length for oversized, you can always start the color work and add the hem afterwards. I'm really comfortable with what my magic numbers are for width right now. Like, I'm really loving 10 to 12 inches of ease. You don't have to put that much ease in, but you do want enough ease that it falls over the side of your shoulders. So with a drop sleeve shoulder, you really want to measure maybe, your shoulder width and add a couple inches rather than going by your bust. Just a little tip there, because you want it to fall over. If it doesn't fall over, the sleeve may not hang as well as you might like. So you can see how a drop sleeve sweater is constructed. Yeah, by pulling it, you can see. I have added shaping here with the decreases. So it's not just like a total T shape, which some drop shoulders are, and it's very cool. I like that. This is kind of got an angled top, and then your sleeves coming off, and then the straight body. So yeah, so I think it creates a really nice line here. Do you see what I mean? So it doesn't look too like boxy, which I do think drop shoulders can make you look sometimes broader than you may want, which I think is why I've historically always avoided them, and now I'm kind of really, really loving them. What else? Oh, in the color work, you're only using 2 colors at a time. It's pretty simple. There are some longer floats, and now I have to remind myself, because of course when you design a sweater, I mean, I think I designed this in like October, November, so I've forgotten a bit. But there's my floats. I'm glad I put on a t-shirt underneath for you, because I just flipped up my sweater and didn't really think, oh, what's under there? We're all covered. Anyways, in my floats, you can see the white one, which is the stems. Very easy, just basic stranded color work. I will show you in the pattern where to catch your floats so that it's nothing will show on the front. In the blue, which are the petals, I am suggesting that you put a ladder back to card line between each flower, and you can see that here, although I can't really get I've worn this so much, it actually still has started to felt together, but I think I might have shown you before, but trust me on it, you can kind of see the dark line here. That's a ladder back to card line. Don't be concerned about that being difficult. It's really, really, really super easy. And I link you to a really basic instruction tutorial on YouTube in the pattern. So it's a great way to learn ladder back to card. I couldn't get it. To me, it was just like a mystery until I think I landed on the right instruction, and it couldn't be easier. Trust me, like could not be easier. And I really like a meditative knit. I really like to zone out. This is a great sweater to zone out, but there's enough interest that you're not bored. Anyway, so you're working your way up. Here it is a steep sleeve. No big deal again. I don't do the tutorial, but I give you a great link to a great tutorial. Someone else has done that work for me and you, and it's amazing. So again, similar to the ladder back to card, steeking color work is super easy. Don't be scared. I reinforce mine with a machine. I don't even think I needed to in this one, but I just didn't want to have any problems. And I am hard on my clothes, you know, hanging out, playing with Luna. Things will get pulled, and I'm always a bit worried, but you know, I think my confidence with steeks will grow and grow the more I do them, as with everything. So steeked here, and then you join in the round just above just above the sleeve area, and then you do a quadruple decrease all the way up your shoulders, which gives you that nice kind of shape like this. And then you go right into the turtleneck. So I think that's 6 inches. That's a good look. It's a good look in the cold. I wore this in New York when I was in New York in January, February, whenever Vogue Knitting was, and I was so warm and toasty, and I did walk around with it like this, you know, with my coat, and I didn't even need to bring an extra scarf, which was amazing. So that's great. You can tack this down if you want. I didn't tack it down. I don't think it needs it. I mean, similar construction, but this one I did tack down. It's just, you know, whatever floats your boat at the time. Yeah, so it's great. I love it. I've worn it a ton. Fingering weight woolly sweaters are amazing and warm and great for travel because they pack to nothing. They're super light. There's nothing to them, and they're great under jackets or coats or whatever. That's why I ended up wearing this one so much when I was there. And it's great here in this climate too because it's still really thin. And while I've got a long sleeve shirt on underneath it, I'm not hot. And I think today is in the high 60s. So like a great, you know, when there's a cool breeze around, it's a great one in this climate as well. So a win-win for that. Yeah, all the other information is going to be on the Ravelry page. I always do include schematics in that you can look at without having to purchase the, sorry, a text is coming through with Luna's pickup for her play date. So yeah, anyways, sorry. I always put a schematic in the Ravelry page. I think it's really important to look at that to make sure that, you know, it'll suit your size needs. You're getting close to your magic numbers, close enough that you can tweak to make perfect for you. Yeah, and it's there. So again, this is the featured pattern for this week. So it'll be 20% off until Friday, March 28th, midnight, Atlantic Standard Time. So I hope that works for you. And right now, there's the play date happening. Let me go get Luna sorted. That is one van full of very happy dogs. It's really cute. The lady Tiffany comes and picks up Luna, and in the van is like Luna's grandmother and uncle and all these other dogs, and they just have a whale of a time together. So anyways, Luna's off. Okay, so that was the Bermudiana. Like I said, 20% off now until next Friday. No coupon required, the usual. And let's move on. So what have I finished? I finished one. I'm going to end up doing 2 of this design. So one of this design is, I'm calling this now with a working title, just Purple Haze. I don't really know what I'm going to call it. But so this first version is like tunic length, sleeveless with a turtleneck. And this is a folded turtleneck. This yarn is Bien Aimee Big Kumo in Amy's sweater color, which is really stunning. And I love all the flecks, really up my street right now. I've also held it together with a Holst Supersoft in the color, is it Hyacinth? Yes, Hyacinth. Oh, I don't know where I remembered that from, but yeah, Hyacinth. You totally can't see the Holst Supersoft. It's just to give it a little bit more structure. In my experience, the really big boucle or Surrey yarns can stretch and lose their shape. When I do the second version, which will have sleeves on it, you just don't want to have like where you sit on it to have like a little indentation for your rear end, or in a sleeve, your elbow, a pokey elbow over time. So the Supersoft is just sort of like a background support in the same color family, just so that I think if it was, in the next one you might see the Supersoft a bit more because it's the same color family but a darker tone, where this it's completely hidden. And it's great. And I've been wearing this one a ton because I find I'm quite comfortable through the day, and then it really chills down at night. And this is just so cozy to wear. So yeah, it's a similar construction to this. You can see here, I was now very confident in my magic numbers for length for a tunic. So I just cast on here, went up, split for sleeves, worked these flat. No point in having a steek. There was no color work. And then joined, and then you'll probably be able to see on this one the quadruple central decrease, which is great, and it gives like a nice little braid up to here, couple rounds straight, smaller needle, and then ribbing for the neck, folded over and sewn in loosely on the inside. I'm really excited about this. This is just basically a basic version of this construction that I've been playing around with quite a bit. And I think it really works. The other one that I'm working on now, which to jump to works in progress, is I guess maybe a little bit trickier to show you. But in this one, let me just see. I'm absolutely ready. I've done the front panel and the back panel. I'm doing a cropped version. So that'll be like that. Sorry. Let me stand up and go behind. That'll be like that. And then of course, the central decreases will bring the shaping up to here. And then instead of the turtleneck, I'll do short rows and then a ribbed crew neck collar. Sorry, I couldn't remember what I was looking for. So in this one pattern, which hopefully I'll publish later in the year, it'll probably come out in December, this big fluffy thing, but whatever. What will be options are obviously 2 lengths, but we can all do our own lengths. There's no need for that to be official. A turtleneck, a crew neck, sleeveless, and then this one will be with sleeves. Sorry, I knew there was something I was forgetting to say. So this one will be with sleeves. And this one is Big Birdie by Diamond Lane, which is also, oh my gosh, I did this before. The great yarn store on Bainbridge Island does amazing colors. The Lammeuld Kid, whoa, that was wild. Anyway, so this is Big Birdie from Diamond Lane, the Lammeuld Kid, in the color Midge, and I've held that double. So this is Midge here. Oh, yeah, this is a fresh one. I just wound this one because we're down to the little bits on another skein from before. And then this is Holst Supersoft. So these are, I just kind of collect these. Like I wait for Holst or the Woolly Thistle sometimes sells Jameson's or Spindrift or one of the Shetland yarns that's so good. I also like British wool yarn, woolly knits, and I just kind of collect them so I can have a really good span of colors to pull from, so that I know that, I mean, I didn't even plan to do this. I knit this and I was going to do sleeves, and this was just going to be just a plain version of this, and I thought, oh, there's so much more you could do with it. And I was so glad that I had Midge here around the Big Birdie, that I could literally just go, great, this is done. And people on Instagram helped me decide when this was done, because I just did it sleeveless. I put it on, I thought, this is really good. And this really fits a hole in my wardrobe of just sort of the torso cozy and big and oversized and great with leggings and like a tunic. I'm really into tunics and leggings, especially in the winter. So I'm so glad I had this. And then because I have a whole collection of these sort of things in rough colors, these two were from the same color family. So because these are a little bit more dramatic, tonal depth wise, you can kind of see it here, where you can't here because they were sort of a much closer tone. And I kind of like that. I think it's really groovy. And I think also the great thing is because there's that dark depth to it, dark color depth in there, I think, you know, wearing dark colors with it like a navy or a black, it almost sort of speaks, I don't like that expression, it relates to, it kind of is a nod to a very dark like black or navy blue or something like that, which, you know, jeans or leggings or my black skirts and stuff like that. So yeah, so this will be coming along. This is quite quick, and this is my really lovely Kate Goldberg. I love that. So this is what I'm working on right now, very actively, and I'm looking forward to trying the crew neck just to see how that works out with this construction, and putting sleeves on and stuff like that. So that's great. So that's one of that'll be my first work in progress, just because it relates to this. So again, I don't really have an official name, Purple Haze. It's just because this is what this reminded me of. The name will probably change, but I'm really enjoying working on those two for upcoming designs. Also upcoming designs, and this is something I've shown a lot, and I'm not in any rush to complete it, so I hope it doesn't bore you, but if you remember before, I recently put out a Get Out of the Pool DK weight tee. Sorry, this is a bit wrinkled, but this is a fingering weight one. And I literally just have to seam up the sides. And I think I will still put the I-cord edge, I'll pick up and put an I-cord edge around the neckline just to reinforce that, because I don't like when these sort of side stitches start to kind of pull. And it also gives more of a circular shape rather than a total boat neck. But yeah, so this is an upcoming fingering weight version of the Get Out of the Pool tee. And I'm really pleased with it. The concept of Get Out of the Pool tee is we all love hand-dyed yarns. So I'm just going to put this here. We all love hand-dyed yarns. I love things boxed, and you can see how like wide this is. It's awesome. Can't wait to wear it. And with hand-dyed yarns, quite often it pools, especially, and pooling is fine. I really do like pooling. But what I do find distracting is when the colors lay and pool or don't pool very differently in different parts of the sweater or the piece that you're wearing. I noticed this when I was buying the DK weight yarn at a yarn store. They had a sample in a little kid's sweater. And I noticed, I'm like, oh, I don't really like how it's doing it on the body, which is so different because it's so different from the sleeves and vice versa and stuff like that. And so I came up with this very simple concept of a t-shirt that keeps every width roughly the same, so that no section should pool dramatically different from another section. So the back and the fronts are the same width, or approximately the same width. The front is a little bit wider just by a few stitches, so that you can see that the front comes down a bit, and then here, there. And then the sleeves are picked up and knit on, and they're effectively the same width as the front and the back. So there'll be a very wide sleeve, sort of like a short dolman sleeve. And then seam together. And again, I love seaming. I love picking out stitches. I find it endlessly satisfying. And that's that. It's knit and garter also because I thought that the blending of the colors is very exciting in garter. So the body is garter, and then the cuffs, neckline, and hem are all in a 2x2 rib. Honestly, when I put it down, I can't remember. So it's a really simple top. I think it's really effective with our wonderful hand-dyed yarns. And I wore my DK one so much last fall, and I know I'm going to wear this because I knit it at the end of the summer. So I had just the fall to wear it when it was still warm here. And so I'm looking forward to knitting or to wearing this fingering weight one. The fingering weight, well, the fingering weight one is in merino. The fall one was actually in a hand-dyed cotton. So this will have maybe a bit more of a limited life because, again, wool, I know wool is got properties for any temperature, but it's so humid here in Bermuda that I swear our pores are open, and I think any little prickle will feel it. So this is a great sort of transitional sweater for me. And again, if I had some interesting hand-dyed cotton yarn, I would totally do it again and wear it all summer long. And maybe I will. This yarn is Bien Aimee, and it is in Twist Nouveau, and the color is Pop Grunge. So I love Bien Aimee. I love the colors. I think they're fun and exciting and perfect for this project. I hope to, I'd love to make another in cotton. It is a project that I find really good when you just need something gentle on your head. Like it's literally back and forth, and for most of it in garter or 2x2 rib. And there's a time and a place for that, for sure. So I haven't rushed it. That's been on my needles for months. I don't care. If I do a summer one in cotton, I'll approach it in the exact same way, but I'm just not going to rush it because it's just a really nice, like I said, gentle project to have around when you just had a long day of work or a long day of whatever, and you just, or sitting on an airplane. I get claustrophobic on airplanes or small spaces, trains and stuff, so I don't like to have anything where I have to have paper out to follow. So it's perfect for that, anyways. So there's no rush for that, but I'm sure literally I've got an hour or so of work to do left on it. It should be done by the next time I see you. After that, I'm working, and I'm really enjoying this. This is the Awesomer Gossamer by Stephen West. Oh, and I don't usually leave things in the middle of the row, but I was running late this morning, and the rows are getting long and taking a long time. So the Awesomer Gossamer is awesome. And I'm using, oh, that's nice there. Yeah, isn't it beautiful? Look at those little baubles. And it's just a really simple stitch that you do every 8-10 rounds or so. I'm using just leftover mohair, and I really restricted myself to that. I didn't want to buy anything. I didn't want to ship anything in. I had to work with what I had, and I'm really pleased. Like, what an interesting color palette. It was fun. My son helped me. I had it all laid out for a couple weeks downstairs, and Oliver was great. He helped move things around and picked other things from the shelf, and yeah, so that's been really fun. I'm basically on the last 4 rounds of the large baubles. You start with like a setup gradient, and then you get into small baubles, medium baubles, and then large baubles. I'm just about finished the large baubles and just about to start on the border, which is great. I was talking with a friend on Instagram, and she just finished an amazing Stephen West shawl. I never remember the names of them, so apologies, I can't remember. It doesn't, beautiful shawl. And I'm finishing this, and I'm going to be sad for this to be over. I'm so tempted to immediately cast on another Stephen West shawl. They're just so much fun to knit. As for the colors and the yarns, there's just so many. It's all linked below. So in the description down below has, all my projects and all the yarns and colors and stuff like that. There is one in here that I didn't know what it was, so there's a mystery one. But yeah, that's really fun. And Stephen West's designs are just so, they're a bit of a marathon. Like, it takes a long time. And I don't know when, I have it on my Ravelry when I started this. And I do serious, I dedicate a serious amount of my time each day to this. Like, I set targets to have per day. And it's just because I'm organized. Like, that's just how my brain works. I like to be sort of organized, and I like to sort of have a plan. I'm not that fun. I'd love to cast on randomly, but I think that would completely stress me out. I literally have to have, the project that I work on in the morning until I finish the target, and then I can work on my socks, which I'll show you next. And then in the evening, I can work on this one. So like, that's literally how I structure my day. And then I have the socks to go when I, go to the in-laws for dinner or out and about and sitting and waiting. So I am kind of neurotic that way. And I have actually one extra project here that doesn't really fit. So I get to do that. If I finish the target for my Awesomer Gossamer, I can work on the other socks, the Summerlee socks. Like, gosh, I am very rigid. But anyways, it's how I get through things. I'm nervous to leave things too long because I just won't go back to them. So definitely going to finish the Awesomer Gossamer. I mean, it's so frothy. Look at that. Just, oh, love it. Oh, that's really fun. That's a pretty photo. I'll have to try and, okay, 15:45. I'll try to remember to do a screenshot like that. Anyways, really pleased with that. Really love Steve and West shawls. And this year I have really been wearing them. There have been, my shoulders and my neck have been really cold, and there's nothing better than a shawl. So maybe I'll just have to cast on another. Can you tell I'm completely talking myself into it? So yeah, I'm blushing. Like, I don't know why I'm blushing. That's not an embarrassing thing. But anyways, so the one thing, this is my on-the-go sock. It's really fun. I fell in love with the yarn. I bought it somewhere. I can't even remember. It's Biscotte Yarns. Really groovy colorway. Here we go. Biscotte hand-dyed Bis-Sock. And the color is Sweet Dreams. Oh, what a fun name. I didn't notice that. And that's just going to go around and around. And I think I'm just going to knit that till it's 12 inches long and then do a toe and a cut and heel. It's just, that's my mindless, you know, I took it last night to our family dinner, and there's nothing better than just sitting around chatting and knitting away. And I've talked about the other purple haze sweater. So the last works in progress is my Color Cuff Club for March from Summerlee, and she's just so much fun. I'm loving her podcast too. So if you haven't watched Summerlee podcast, they're like oh, I wish Andrew it's a style of movies, Wes Anderson. Gosh, names really go. But I'm finding her videoing and her editing and everything like that is very Wes Anderson's in its flavor, and I think it's really fun. But her designs are so great too. So this is the March Cuff Club. I have a small collection of my favorite right now, Swanky Socks, my current favorite sock yarn, Swanky Sock from Magpie Fibers, and this color is Follow You Into the Dark. And so I wanted to use that because I do want to be a little thoughtful in my colors so that I know I would be able to wear them with my outfits. So that's why I started with this, and that's how I started to pick the colors, with the help of the lovely lady at from Magpie, who was on the Yarnbirds van at Rhinebeck, and she was amazing. She helped. I said, like, 4 or 5, can you help me pick? And so she gave me her suggestion for 4 or 5 base colors, and they were spot on. So yeah, so this sort of lovely dark teal is definitely something I can wear with anything, jeans, whatever. And I wanted the flower to just be sort of chill. So I have a nice stash of leftovers of superwash merino. And because it's a cuff, I don't really care if it is nylon reinforced or not. And so I don't know what these are. They might be sock yarns, but those are the colors I'm using. This one's kind of like a gray with blues and purples in it. And this is just a lovely soft yellow. And I think those colors work out really nicely. So that'll be pretty. And yeah, and I've got to figure out where I schedule that in to work on, because I'm so square. You know, it's a bit ridiculous. So those are all my works in progress, my finished object, and the featured pattern. So I'm going to take a quick break, have something to drink, and we'll get into the very final part 5, final part for the how I design a sweater. Okay, see you in a sec. You won't even notice. Okay, see you in literally a sec. Okay, so part 5, the final episode, I think, unless anyone asks for anything else, which is totally cool. So if you have any further questions or whatever, let me know. But in my mind, this is sort of the end of this series on how I design a sweater. So walking you through what we already talked about, the first one was about inspiration, where to find it. The second one was about stitch patterns, how to interpret your inspiration into sort of a 2-dimensional product or knitted product. You found your yarn, you've knit a swatch, so you know the gauge that you're working with. You picked your optimal sweater construction, which was a dense video, again, episode. 33. And I keep on saying that because this episode and that episode really intermingle. So you found your optimal sweater construction. Last week you found your magic numbers. And this week we're going to sort of pull it all together. So you've got a lot of information floating around. And I do think I've said this before, but for charts, I use a great online app called Stitch Fiddle. The link is down below again, because I may or may not have talked about it and I don't want to miss that. I get a lot of questions on what do I use for charts. That's what I use. The great thing is it's free until you've used so many charts. So I explored it, made sure I liked it before I subscribed. And I've been using it for quite a few years and I really like that. So Stitch Fiddle. So yeah, so you've got the Stitch Fiddle. So what I do to start with is I use Excel in the computer because I like that I can make mathematical sequences, but on an Excel spreadsheet, I put my magic numbers and I call them my target. So target, like if you're knitting a top down, your target collar size, your target chest circumference, your target upper arm circumference, your target cuff circumference, your target body length, sleeve length, etc., etc. And in Excel or any sort of computer, you can do it by hand and writing out, but I do so many scratching out and so many changes. I really like it on Excel. So in Excel, my husband had to teach me because in interior design, I never needed Excel, but he was a banker and a trader, so he used Excel a lot. And it is magic. So by having that all listed for your target dimensions, then you'll figure out how mathematically you'll get from one to the other, like your collar to your to have the actual total. So the other thing is collar, what's your bust and your upper sleeve, and then you put your upper sleeve and your upper bust and the other upper sleeve together, and that's your target dimension before you're separating for sleeves. And then after sleeves, it sort of separates, you know, sleeves, body, and then in between them, the underarm extra stitches. Over time, I have worked to refine the mathematical sequences to work for different constructions. So I have one kind of Excel spreadsheet that works for circular yokes. I'm not going to show it to you because I don't know if it would make a lot of sense because it's all very intertied. Like, so if I change one number, it shuffles down on all the other numbers. That's something I worked on for, well, the Burmese basic sweaters is where I developed that. And that was a 2-year process. So I'm not really going to show it because A, it's super complicated and it makes sense to me, but also it's kind of proprietary, if that makes sense. And I think most designers feel the same way. On a simpler level, the the drop shoulder sleeves, that would be a great place to start. And it's funny, I didn't start there. I've sort of, I wouldn't say ended there, but I've come around to it further along in my design story, whatever, journey, whatever you want to call it. But I mean, you could have your width and your bust and your, you know, and just go up from there, and then your sleeve and, you know, this. So they could have all your target measurements, and it could be a lot more straightforward with a drop shoulder. Raglan is interesting because, of course, you can adjust your rates of raglan. So again, what you might want to do is do a very simplified one for yourself or your first one, which is just every other row you increase. And then if it doesn't get in a decent amount of length here, because of course your 2 key things in your Excel spreadsheets, aside from your target, is your stitch gauge and your row gauge. And that will link in on every level. So if you find that your yoke is getting too deep, then you can adjust your rate of increases for your raglan, which is, you know, you could make it faster or you could make it slower here to get to the right, it's that fine balance of getting to the right length on the underarm that you want, the yoke depth, and to the right width that you need. So I know I'm being kind of vague, and I don't mean to be, but how designers do that is quite proprietary, and I'm really proud of my circular yoke one. The raglan, you know, of course, it's a bit more sort of standardized, because there is a basic rate of increase in which you can change, but that's the sort of only main non-standard, but you can be as complicated. I don't mean to, oversimplify anything, but so that's great. The other ones, when you get into the sort of contiguous methods for top down, which are great, the sort of Sweater Project by Julie Weisenberger or Osa Tricosa, that's when you get into some pretty heavy maths and heavy spreadsheets. So I would suggest that you start with something simple. You might want to start with a drop sleeve, like I suggested. The other book that I recommended in episode 33 was Strange Brew. Strange Brew by Tin Can Knits. And that's a great one to work with for circular yokes. So that's really great. And you could plug and play, and you can put in your own color work. So circular yokes, definitely work with the Tin Can Knits book, but really I would suggest that you can grow it. And if you wanted to publish it and you wanted to grade it, I would put your numbers into an Excel spreadsheet or something. I'm sure Apple has something similar. I'm not really that computery. My husband has set up our computer system for my interior design business that I used to have. And so I just use what's there. Excel is there, which I didn't need for interior design, but he did, whatever. Anyway, so that's what I would suggest, because if you want to grade it, if you have quite often in Excel, I'll have the column that I'm working on, because of course I'm most familiar with my size, what fits for me, which is kind of my magic numbers. And those are highlighted, and then I can grow them larger or shrink them smaller. And then you can fiddle around, and then basically once you have that and you've got your target numbers in there, it can all trickle down. It's not as magical as it sounds until you set up the system and the spreadsheet that works for you. But then you can kind of take any concept that you have, any inspiration, any, and work it out. With Excel spreadsheets and with magic numbers, it's really good to also look at size charts. There's some really great ones, and the ones that I use, I think largely, maybe one isn't, but largely free online. They really help, because of course they say, a two-year-old child would be approximately having sleeves this long, whatever. We're all different. Women's sizes, with a 36-inch bust would probably have an 11-inch sleeve, upper arm circumference, like that sort of information, so that if you work with your magic numbers, you can then use a size chart to, again, grow or shrink. I'm lucky, I'm kind of in the middle-ish, so it is easy to grow or shrink. It's very easy for me to imagine the fit and everything on both sides of me, which I find helpful. I'm a very visual person. So size charts really help. The other thing to know, though, with size charts, and I'm a big believer in this, if you're designing a sweater, you're designing a sweater. And you don't have to be a slave to those size charts. They are good to follow because it gives you a basic target. But if you want an exaggeratedly small, narrow sleeve, you could do that. You could also write in your pattern a note saying, be sure that you're comfortable with this. If not, you can either make it smaller by doing X or making it larger by doing Y. But I do think in design, we shouldn't always be 100% working with proportions that are standardized, because then you're not playing with full design. You might be playing with stitches, you might be starting with colors and that, but you're not necessarily pushing any proportional boundaries, which again isn't important for all sweater design, but it's definitely important for some. And pushing those boundaries is sort of, in my mind, what makes it fashion, rather than generic, proportions and shapes and fits. Sort of, in my mind, the generic sort of 1980s sweater, which never really worked for me. The sleeves were too wide, the hem was too tight, and the collar, I'm not sure, and the shoulders off too. So again, I play around with the recommendations. I try not to deviate too far, because then that limits, you know, the other knitters and the other shapes, for sure. And I do really say know your magic numbers so that you can customize it to fit and to be optimal for your body. And I think that's where we get our unique looks. I think there's unique looks for any designers, knitwear designers that you can think of. I'm sure you can see repeated proportions that are used in each person's designs, and they're specific to their looks. Like Andrea Mowry has a very specific sort of sweater shape proportion, cropped, you know, whatever. Irene Lynn, similar, beautiful, drapey, whatever proportion, maybe a bit more blousy, bigger sleeves. There's sort of identifiable markers, and those are all played with in the sizing and the grading and the sizing charts. And that's what makes the different designers unique. And I think that's really, really, really wonderful. The other thing I do think is it's sometimes good to look at who the designers are, because of course they're probably using their own physique as a starting point. And if you have particularly narrow shoulders, maybe you just keep that in mind and look to see if there's any designers that are similar, because they probably will work with that. Or likewise, if you've got very broad shoulders, maybe those designers' styles would work for you because they have a faster rate of increase, you know, between the neck and the shoulders, which would work for a broader. A slower rate of increase would work for a narrower shoulder. Things like that. It's good to sort of look at the models. That's why Ravelry is so good. Look at what all of the models, as in what other people have knit and how they're wearing it, and if you think that will work for you. That's just amazing. So for size charts, I really love Sister Mountain. And again, all the links are below. Sister Mountain is the one that you might have to subscribe to. I like hers, and I don't know why I particularly like hers. But maybe the way she writes it makes more sense to me, because I think that's also a really big thing. I like Usolda Teague's size charts, and I think they've gotten a lot more. I've just looked them up again, and when I sort of screen saved them before, I think they've gotten even more dynamic and thorough. So Usolda's is marked, linked down below. And the last one, which I think is, the last one, which I think is really good because they go really across the board, and Usolda's might too, but is the Craft Yarn Council, and linked below. And they'll do men, women, child, infant, like baby, hats, mitts, socks, etc., which I think is a really good, like, if, you know, another good one. I do sometimes also refer to a couple just to make sure that I'm on the right track, especially when I'm trying to adjust proportions that aren't standard, just to kind of like, how much can I push this kind of thing. So that's size charts. Books to help draft patterns. And so please do go back and look at the books listed in episode 33. Like I said, these two episodes, 35 and 33, really do intermingle. So the Tin Can Knits book is linked in episode 33. Strange Brew, totally, if you're a circular round yoke person, that's a must. For the two books that I've got listed today are more generic on how to write a design or make a design, and this is my favorite one. I like things that are edited. There's not heaps and heaps and heaps and heaps and heaps of information here, but it's all the good information. And this is The Beginner's Guide to Writing Knitting Patterns by Kate Atherley. And I think she's brilliant. And I think she has definitely edited the process down in a really, really helpful way. So this, in my mind, is a really good book. The other book that I really like is Sweater Design in Plain English. And this is by Maggie, and I can't read this last name backwards, Rigetti. This is another really good book. you know, lots of great information. Just flashing it. If you're knitting something flat in pieces, yeah, really good. These two books are really helpful. And again, I'm really sorry that sort of the number situation, it's kind of touch and feel. The other thing that I think is, as in you yourself, you will work on it and you will get better over time. But there's so much in these books and in the books from episode 33. The other thing, so once you've got the pattern written, you don't necessarily have to do the grading yourself. You can ask for someone who can grade for you, whether that's your tech editor or someone who specifically is into grading. I'm sure in a Ravelry group section, you can look for grading, people who can grade patterns. I do believe, for me, it's better if I do it because, again, I have a way that I want it to fit people or how it to look. And I don't always stick with the standard sizes, dimensions. Again, not massively off, but I do mess around with proportions a bit to make it have my stamp. And I think to control that the best is for me to grade it. But then before even testers happen or whatever, I do get it tech edited to make sure I'm not on some crazy tangent, which, you know, sometimes I get a really polite note from my tech editor that says, what size chart are you following? And then I'm like, oh, I've like gone off on it. Yeah, we're a bit off plot here. So so tech editors can grade for you if that's a service they're willing to provide, but they can also check your grading. And that's definitely a service that a tech editor should do. It's not only just making sure that your numbers work out or that your writing is clear or that your grammar and punctuation is appropriate, but they should be also looking at how you've graded the sweater and if you've done something wild and wacky. Tech editors are really easy to find. I usually I've gone through a couple periods where I've needed to find new tech editors when life got busy with her other job or, you know, whatever, or just getting too busy and couldn't keep up or I don't know, whatever, you know, things change. So what I do is I usually write a list of what my requirements are. So in a tech editor, I am looking for someone that can, you know, help me make sure that all the usual, the grading is right, the grammar is right, the spelling, it's clear, I also am looking for someone who can draw a schematic. I've never spent the time to figure that out. I feel like by the time I get to that stage, it's time for me to move on. And my tech editor now, LOD, she is amazing and does the most beautiful little schematics with a hint of the actual, not just a basic sort of sweater or garment or scarf shape. She puts in a little bit of the pattern so that it's really relevant. It's really nice. I really love what she does. And so I'm asking someone to provide a schematic for me. And I'm also want to make sure I'm in a certain budget because unless you're one of the top knitting designers, there's not a lot of room for income for, you know, once you've invested the time, the yarn, paid a tech editor, if you've also paid a grader, you want to make sure that it's all within a budget because it's not a huge income earner. And for some it is and whatever, but you just have to be a little bit savvy, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Not invest the earth because the return probably, I mean, unless you're amazing and, you know, you knock it out of the park. But I think people, if they explore this approach, I think people would be really surprised at how it's tough. It's tough to break even, and it's even tougher to make a profit. So the cost is also really important. But on Ravelry, there's a great group. So if you go Ravelry group and then write in tech editing services, there's a great thread there where I've sort of interviewed with emails people on that before and found amazing tech editors that hit all my needs. Price was great, turnaround times were great, schematics great, and their eagle eyes amazing. So yeah, I mean, I am so thankful for all the people that I've worked with They've all been amazing and literally eagle eyes. Editing is not my forte, which is great. So I'm super, super happy with that. And just going back to the cost of it, I think there's great value in it, and it does take a tech editor a serious amount of time. And so I think one has to come up with what you consider a reasonable wage. And I think I believe in a reasonable, hopefully on the generous, that the tech editor is happy and I'm comfortable with it too. It's that fine balance and everything, isn't it? Also with tech editors, even the ones that I work with for a long time, I'll send my pattern that's upcoming and I'll just send it to her and just say, could you put together a quote for tech editing schematics, just so that I know that I'm, not off the chart, like I'm not overspending or whatever. And I think that's a really expected thing from the other side, and then everyone's happy and there's no surprises. So that's great. Once things have been tech edited, you've gone back and forth with any changes, then I do calls for test knitting. If you would like to test knit for me, just send me an email. My email is attached below, email address. I don't really have huge amounts of requirements for test knitters, just that you do the best you can and give me any advice and feedback and post photos on Ravelry. Bonus is if you're on Instagram and you post photos for me there too. But I just think it's so important that the test knitters are keen and enjoy it. And I try to make a great community on Instagram and a private chat group, and we have some really fun chats. And it's great because also quite often other test knitters will see something and be able to answer another question if I can't get to it in time. So that's really fun. So I try to make a sense of really fun community. I'm very keen to know what your thoughts are, and that, photos are posted at the end, and I'm super grateful for that. So that help. Many of my test knitters I've been working with for a really long time, so it's really fun, and we've created really nice relationships. So that's really it. If you're fun, cool, and chill, and you'll do your best. I don't really ever believe that you have to complete, like, it's whatever, it's knitting, life happens. So really no pressure, but just, yeah, love that. And then publishing on Ravelry. It is a really hard word to say, isn't it? I don't say it out loud very often. Ravelry is quite amazing. When you wish to publish, or when you wish to establish yourself as a pro, there's like a little icon in the top right corner. It's really easy, and it'll walk you through publishing. There's no sense in me trying to explain it. If you have any questions, you can Google it, or you can ask Ravelry itself. It's really straightforward. It's like they just walk, the website Ravelry just walks you through all the questions, and it's fantastic. They also give you test knitter codes that you can give to your test knitters that they can put in their project name field, and then it links it all together to your pattern before it's published. Really great. Again, no great sense in me trying to explain it to you, because it's going to be so, without going through it on your side yourself, it's just, whatever. If you have any questions, feel free to email it, no problem. I'm not a whiz, but I do appreciate the hand-holding step-by-step on their website, and I lean into it, and I think that's great. And it, there's questions of what language, constructions, all the, constructions, details, characteristics, I think is another one, and you just tick the boxes that are relevant and you're off to the races. It's really great. So that is kind of it. It feels like I maybe rushed through the last sort of last little bit, but I didn't. The last little bit is definitely something that one should have a general understanding of, but until you're actually working out the numbers, it's a bit vague, it's a bit ethereal. So this gives you a sense of what one does to finish up a pattern and to launch it, or just to finish up a pattern for you to knit. I tend to write my patterns before I knit. As I knit, I edit, because things will come to like, I need more of this, I need less of that. But that's how I work. Other people design on their needles. I think that's amazing, and I think that must be an ability to see things in 3 dimensions that I just, whoa, cool. where because I'm sort of, I guess, a little uptight and I like to have my plan for the day. I clearly like to have my plan for my sweaters too, or my cardigans, which I don't really design, or scarves or whatever, shawls. That's just how my brain works. But if you can design on your needles, all the power to you, and all the power to you of writing it down afterwards. That's not how my brain works either, because like, as you can tell, I don't remember what I've done, you know, an hour ago, the details. So yeah, so I hope that gives a general, vague conclusion to how I design and publish a pattern and everything like that. I hope you found it interesting. And like I said, there's a link to a playlist in YouTube. So if you have missed anything or want to see any of it, it's there. And yeah, have fun and be creative. That's all. That to me is just the world. Having fun and being creative. There's nothing better. So, oh, and day of knitting, but that's just me. So I'm going to leave you there. I have, in the last episode in 34, I showed you videos of a really beautiful property that was sort of abandoned and now is taken over by the Bermuda government. It was an estate with people who lived there around the turn of the century and clearly had an amazing imagination. It looked like it would have been amazing for parties, like they have party lawns and stuff like that. They've also got really lovely pieces of the property that are all linked into nature. Like they had 2 swimming pools that they made look like ponds, and they would fill from their rain tank when they wanted to have a swim. I can't really find them. They might have been bulldozed, but I've heard about them. There's bird baths that look very organic in like a little clearing, a teeny clearing, like a 20-foot by 20-foot clearing. They've made passageways through openings in caves and stuff. They've made a mausoleum out of a cave, which is really stunning. Really a lot of imagination. There's also a private beach, so across the main road that kind of divides the main property and the beach is a road. And I think the road was, I'm pretty sure the road was there, but much smaller in the turn of the 1900s. But their private beach is amazing. And the private beach is now where all the surfers go, because there's a break in the coral reef just beyond it. So the waves can actually come in quite big and a lot of fun. So when I show you the video of the beach, it's the surfers that are there. It's like 6 o'clock in the morning or so, and they're just there with their boards chatting around before they hit the waves. So that's kind of cool. So I hope you enjoy the last videos of this, also another little series on Southlands. It's just a place that I just think is enchanting. And I can't imagine if you were a kid growing up on that property. Wow, like just playing in the trees and the bushes and the jungly bits and all of the amazing caves and overgrown. Oh, amazing. So I hope you enjoy those videos. And that's it for me today. See you in about 2 weeks. All right. Happy knitting. Bye.